When you want to include a slideshow in your interactive document, one of the best tools to use is a multi-state object. So here I have a document that's an artist portfolio, and I'd like to create a slideshow where I can click buttons to view each piece of the portfolio. And each piece consists of a placed image of a painting plus a caption with a description of the painting. And to accomplish this, I'm going to include them all in a multi-state object and turn these little triangles here into buttons to navigate through the multi-state object and play the slideshow. If I look at my Layers panel, I can see that I've organized this document into a few different layers: buttons, extra images, images, and the background. If I tip open Images, I have 4 different objects here that correspond to groups. If I move one, you can see what it is. It's the painting plus the description. I'll just undo. And I've named each one of these for the names of the paintings. To make my multi-state object, I want to select everything on the Images layer. So I'm going to click to the right on the little green square, and that selects all the objects. Now I'll go to my Object States panel and click on the button down the bottom to convert it to a multi-state object. I'll give it a name. Under Object Name, I'll call it Portfolio. And I can click on each one in the panel to see each state of the multi-state object. So each one of these will correspond to one of the states in the slideshow. If I want to change the order, I can just drag any one of these objects up or down inside the panel. You can have as many objects as you want in a state, and you can have as many states in a multi-state object as you want. But the trick is only one state can be visible at a time. And there are 3 different levels of selections that you can have in a multi-state object. And the Object States panel will indicate exactly what you have selected. So if I don't have any multi-state object selected, the panel's empty. If I select a multi-state object, I see the different states, and up here I can see this icon telling me that I have the entire multi-state object selected. I can also see that down at the bottom of the panel where it says All States Selected. So if I want to move or transform everything in all states, I can do that right now. For example, if I wanted to scale down the entire slideshow, I could go to the Control panel and change the size. So I'll go down to 75%. And I can click through and see the different states were also scaled. I'll undo a couple of times to just go back. So it's 100% size. What if I wanted to just make a change to one state? Well, then I can click on that state in the panel and see how the icon changed over here. This tells me that I have just one state selected, and I also see an indicator right here to the right. And at the bottom of the panel, it tells me State Selected. So if I move objects in this state, the others are unaffected. So I can slide this painting over, and then if I switch to the other states, they haven't moved. I'll undo to put that state back where it was. And I can also select a single object within a state by double-clicking on it in the layout. So for example, if I double-click and I can select just the painting but not the caption, and then I could transform it, rotate it, or whatever, and you see that the caption is not rotated. I get a little feedback in the panel too. Now the square is filled in, and at the bottom it tells me Object in State Selected. I'll undo. I can add objects to a state by cutting or copying them to my clipboard and either right-clicking on the state and choosing Paste into State, or using the button at the bottom of the panel. I can remove a state from a multi-state object by selecting it and right-clicking on it and choosing Delete. I'll cancel out of there. Or I could also click on the trash can at the bottom of the panel to delete that selected state. I can also add a state to a multi-state object. Say I wanted to add another painting to the portfolio. If I go to my Layers panel, in the Extra Images layer, I actually have just such a thing. I have another painting and another description. I'd like to add this smirched object to my multi-state object. So I'll go to the Object States panel. I'm going to click and drag to select both the painting I want to add to the multi-state object and the multi-state object itself. And I get some instructions in the panel. I have 3 options. First, I can click the Add button to insert this new group into the visible state, or I can click the New button to add each object I have selected as a separate new state in the current multi-state object. Or third, I can Option or Alt-click and add all the selected objects together into one new state in the current multi-state object. Since I have just one group selected, there's no difference between clicking on the New button and Option or Alt-clicking on it. So I'll just click it. And now I see I have a new state in my multi-state object. Now let's make this a working slideshow by adding some controls to it. That's what these triangles up here were for. I'll select the one pointing to the right, and I'll go to the Buttons panel. and click Button. I'll give it a name. We'll just call it Next State. I'll add an action. Go to Next State, and it chooses the object, portfolio, and I have the option to stop it at the last state, or I can make it so clicking again will loop back around to the beginning of the slideshow. I'll leave this unselected for now. I'll select the other arrow and repeat the process. I'll just call this one Previous. Action, go to Previous State, and the object is Portfolio. Let's preview our slideshow. And when I click one of the triangles, I go to the next state in the multi-state object, and I play the slideshow. Another thing to know about multi-state objects is that when you output a document to print or PDF, only the visible state of a multi-state object is included in the output. So if you have multi-state objects in your documents, be sure to check which state is visible before you output. Multi-state objects are great for slideshows, but you can probably think of more uses for them in your documents. Anytime you want to add interactivity to control the visibility of multiple objects, consider using a multi-state object.